Hey everybody, welcome to the January edition of Coffee with the Chief. And with me today is the newly installed Mount Hope Town Supervisor, Matt Howell. And we figured this would be a great opportunity to bring him aboard and everyone can hear about what he has planned and what he's all about. So Matt, thank you. Welcome to the show. Glad you could join us.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here and hopefully get to meet some new people through the internet here. So.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Married. My wife Dawn and I have 4 kids. They're all under 10 here in the Otisville Elementary School. The youngest is in preschool, so definitely a full house, busy house. So.
And you're a lifelong Mount Hope resident?
Yes and no. So
Okay.
when I was about the first 10 years, I was in Mamakating, about 200 yards away from Mount Hope, so just a stone's throw outside of the town.
Okay.
But since then, yes.
All right, so you are a bit of a legacy, right? Because your grandfather, great-grandfather, was the town supervisor in the town. When was that?
Correct. It would have been in the late 60s.
Late 60s.
He was also the chairman of the Board of Legislators, which before the county executive and legislative body was there, he essentially was the county executive.
So you're a legacy, if you want to say it that way.
Or dynasty, if you want to.
One or the other. But there's a, whatever that is, 50-year gap between
you.
Yeah,
there's been some time, yes.
So, what is it that you love about living in Mount Hope?
For me, it's the history. Like you just mentioned, the family history. History is a very fascinating topic to me. So, and being a part of it personally, and seeing, just here in a boardroom, all the historical pictures, the historical society, and all the things that have come before. So that's what I like about the area. It's home. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. I've traveled a little bit. It's nice to visit other places, but this is home. It's just something that keeps me tied down.
Now, I'm not a big snow person, but you being with the family business probably like it when it snows and it's cold. Me, I'm like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore.
The cold, yes. The snow, not so much. That makes you tired at the end of the day. The higher it gets, the higher you got to get your boots out of it.
So when you were a kid, what did you think you were going to grow up to be?
I wanted to be a professional hockey player. That was my goal. I was going to be, Wayne Gretzky's sidekick. Yes, I did for 13 years in school.
Really? So that's something I didn't know about you.
Yeah,
so where did you play?
I started in Newburgh, just a recreational league, and then moved into Bear Mountain, a travel league. When the last 2 years we played out of West Point, it's an amazing facility. That was something. So.
And it just didn't work out in the NHL?
Nope, it didn't. They didn't come calling. So.
So when did you realize you wanted to be involved in government?
I would say when I had children of my own, seeing or being able to be a part and provide for what could come for them, to have a hand or a portion of working towards the future of what they could have, or by not being involved, what they couldn't have is so.
And you have a history, like your great-grandfather, and your dad's very active in the planning board, and he's a fireman in Howell, so there's a history behind it too. Correct,
yes. And if you like a family trait, if you would, in that kind of community service and give back, since the Howell's Fire Company was started, I'm the only person in the family that's not been in it.
Really?
So,
are you holding out for a reason, or
nope? It's not my cup of tea or coffee. So
gotcha.
it's and being involved with the level of involvement I have in the family business, transitioning towards ownership at some point, and being involved with the town, you've got to have the time management, and to be involved in something like that where that volunteer organization really depends on your time. I don't see that I could be there and be beneficial for them. So
you've never been a member?
No.
Really?
No.
That's interesting. And your whole rest of your family was?
Correct. Yep. My grandfather, he was involved. His father was a treasurer. He was a charter member.
Okay.
So it's a lot of history.
At the Thanksgiving table, they're all talking firematics, and you're off to the side.
That's it. I just listen.
Just listen.
Just listen.
What? What do you think's the biggest challenge facing us in the town of Mount Hope right now?
In terms of the town itself, I don't see anything major glaring. I think on the macro level, other entities or other things that would play into effect for the town's residents, Washington and Albany. First off, the tax side of that, more so from a business perspective, because that's has the trickle-down effect to the residents. So if the businesses, and these other entities are burdened more so, then that's going to put a higher strain on the resident, which could have an effect on us here at town government, but I would say more so for them personally with, making their dollar stretch, inflation, a lot of things that we necessarily don't have control over, which puts a stress on them we may not be able to relieve.
Right.
So.
And there's so many unfunded mandates that you don't even realize that come down.
Correct.
From Albany that just make it so difficult, to operate in New York. It's just interesting.
It is, and that's the difficult part for us within the town is when Albany says you have to do this task and figure out a way to fund it. It's the burden goes back to the taxpayer. So. And
I think in a small town it's almost more difficult. Like we'll use the discriminatory harassment training, which it's very important training. Everyone should get all that, but in a small place like this, now you have to send someone for the training. You have to have them do it. You have to pay everyone as you get. There's so many layers on it.
Yep.
And when they're sitting up in Albany, they don't really care that it cost you $2,000. Where $2,000 is $2,000
Correct.
in a small town.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a difficult challenge, I think, that we see in small towns.
Correct.
And it's a fun town, I think. There's a lot going on here.
There is, and I would say, I'm 32. Other people I know that are my age, kids in school, they love the environment, the parks, the school functions, and the things for the families to do, which is good, and that's a positive thing. Personally, and I want to speak for my fellow colleagues on the board, would want to see that continue and grow. And it's nice that we have a nice mix on the town board of people that have children that are in school or maybe heading to college, or so you kind of have both ends of that spectrum as to what the families need or like. Yeah,
and I mean, I'm similar to you. I had a gap of about 10 years where I did not live in the town, but I've been here forever. My family's been here, and it's a good school system. The school superintendent is so active, so part of everything. You have a beautiful elementary school. Yeah. The town services are really good, and the taxes are relatively cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, cheap isn't the right word.
Reasonable,
right?
Yep.
Especially when you compare it to other places.
Correct.
So I think it's a nice place to raise a family. It's a nice place to live.
Yep.
So I agree with you there. What do you think? So you got elected to the town board what year? 2013. What do you think is your greatest accomplishment, or the board's greatest accomplishment, if you don't have an individual one, since you've been elected?
I would say personally would be the Veterans Day Parade. Not seeing that there was anything to recognize our men and women that served the country, and to see what it has become and what it means to our local veterans it's big. That holds a special spot in my heart, the veterans, because without those men and women, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
Right. What was the most unexpected part of being on the town board?
The most unexpected part, newly elected, we were involved in a process to choose the county legislator, which now is Tom Fagione from over in Deer Park, and that was an experience. I thought I would not be picking, selecting a county legislator. It was a joint meeting with Port Jervis and the Deer Park boards over in Deer Park, and it was interesting. Not that it was challenging, but just something that, in my wildest dreams, I wouldn't have, expected being part of. So.
That's interesting, because I forgot that he was even selected. Right? Who was? I don't remember who was before him.
I don't know his predecessor for, but the other person that was in the running, if you would, was Dickie Roberts. I remember.
Gotcha.
But I don't know who the previous legislator
was. Forget all about time just flies. And you're like,
does.
Oh yeah, I remember that. So, what are you new to your position? What are you looking forward to with your role here as the new town supervisor?
So, project planning and completion, and being on a large scale. So with, like you said, the family business, when I get to go somewhere and look at a new project at a customer's location and design it, build it, and then put it into use, it gives you satisfaction knowing that you had every part of that, and seeing something come from the drawing board to use. I enjoy that challenge, and now taking it to a grander scheme with, a township, much larger employee base, much larger, if you would, customer base. I'm looking forward to the challenge, and I'm looking forward to see what the end results are going to be.
I'm with you on that. I get bored sometimes with the everyday mundane things, which are important, obviously, and we got to get them done.
Yes.
But it's always the projects that I always have the most interest in, because you get to see it from start to finish and everything in between. Even if there's good and bad parts of it, at least you get to see your work.
Correct.
That everyday thing that happens, at least for me, I just lose interest in it. So you're the same way.
Yep.
It's kind of funny. What's some of your goals for the first year here in Mount Hope?
So some of the things, it's been a work in progress, if you would, the town hall expansion. And this would be a benefit not only to the employees but to the residents, because someone like our planning and zoning clerk who works in, we'll say, a broom closet, a very small, tight office, I think by expanding and giving them a proper sized office for their files, and this way they can better and more efficiently function, I think will bring a better product to the taxpayer. So that would be a major goal. I think something a little more minor or a little more short-term accomplishment would be some upgrades to the town website, which we've just started talking about, some of the board members and myself, where again, if we can get more information in not a faster way, but a better way to the residents, a little more user-friendly, if you would, this way, the end goal is to what can we get for the residents, or increase what we have for the residents.
Yeah. The technology just changes so much. Yeah. It's crazy. Like every day it's something different. But people more and more, and I think that COVID has expanded this even more, is everyone wants stuff at the fingertip.
Yes.
Like they want to be able to just go on a website and they can find it, and not have to come in and interact and those things. So that's good.
Yep, they order it and it's on a doorstep.
Right, that's it, right? Yep. They want the drone, dropping it off in like 2 hours, And sometimes I'll say to someone, like, you just called me like 20 minutes ago, we're working on it. Like, and be like, oh, okay. So it's interesting. What challenges do you anticipate in your new role?
Employees, and by that I mean retirements and hiring. So the workforce, and knowing it from the private sector, and we've had some retirements and hiring in my last 8 years here on being on the town board. I just see it as being more of a challenge going forward. Like anything, any workforce that ages, you expect the retirements and things like that. But with certain, I'm going to say everybody here at the town that I've interacted with in the past 8 years, is hard to replace those people. Yes, you can find another body, but do they have the same characteristic, the same qualities and ethics and drive to do the job from before?
And institutional knowledge. I mean, that's a big thing, especially in a small town.
Yep. So.
Yeah, employees are tough. Yeah. That's the toughest thing.
And
I'll say this, and I love Marie and Maureen. I'm nothing personal against them, but I always find too the civilians are so different than the police officers. It's just in my career, even when I was in Middletown before I came here, and that's been a while ago now. It's just, I don't know what it is, but it's a challenge, and you sit home and you think about how you're going to work through some of these challenges with employees.
Yep.
But I know when I came, I was blessed that Norman Mann was my predecessor, and he still works for us, and he didn't go anywhere. So some of that institutional knowledge that was just so beneficial, just to say, hey, why do we do it this way?
Yep.
And everyone, I don't know. And you ask Norman, oh, this is why. He goes, blah, 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 and it's just, the employees are so valuable, and the employees are challenged too sometimes. So. But it's fun. You'll have fun with it.
It is. It's, and having the experience in the private sector it's different, but it's beneficial. So to know and have the expectation that that challenge is there, helps to prepare you and better seek, your end goal of a new hire.
So I work as a referee on the side, as a side job, and I always tell people, like, you could never make it because it's private, and it's like a contract is we can do whatever we want to you, but you have to give us 10 days notice to do anything, and I'm simplifying it, but it's just amazing. Like, some of the demands in the private sector are so different than they are.
Yes.
It's a nice way to put it. Different. And I was just talking to someone today about money that's been owed to me for a really long time, and it's just like, okay, someday we'll get it, and then everyone's working to get it.
Yeah.
But in government, it seems like, bam, I want it today, or I wanted it yesterday.
Yesterday.
So it's definitely a different environment, the public and private sector. So
Yes.
that'll be fun for you.
Yes.
And I think Chad had some of the same issues when he was new,
Yes.
because, and you'd say, we can't do that. And he,
Yeah, that's
like,
It's a
you can't do that.
definitely a different workplace.
Yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
workplace. So.
Yeah.
Who would you say, or what would you say has been the most considerable influence in your life?
Probably two teachers I had in high school.
Now, you went to Minnesing?
Yes. Yep, Minnesing graduate. I was in a JROTC program, so the two instructors I had there, Chief Dennis and Colonel Bernstein.
See, I didn't know that either, that you were in the junior ROTC program.
It
A lot
was-
we're finding
yeah,
out.
yeah.
So I'm glad we have you today.
So the reason for that is it wasn't just a class, it wasn't just something to learn, but academically, but the life skills I took out of it. One of the big things was public speaking, and to be able to stand up in front of a classroom of 15 or 20 kids, scared me to death, and I didn't want to talk. But after, going through that and other lessons that, you may not think of or see as valuable or important, they I would say pay dividends. And I said this when I was in the process of being elected to my first term on a town board. Without having that exposure and that experience, public speaking, I couldn't have been able to stand in front of a committee group or, a group of residents and kind of give my sales pitch as to, why I was the guy to be. So.
Yeah, that's an awesome program.
Yeah.
It's really, and you don't hear enough about it. But yeah, they do amazing work over there.
Yes. Yeah.
Just the like you said, the life skills. You learn a couple little things, and it's got nothing to do with the ROTC or the military or anything.
Correct.
You put it to good use.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
What you said. We're finding out a lot about
It is,
you.
yeah.
A junior ROTC hockey player.
Yes. Yep.
So you talked a little bit, like you mentioned you like the history. So if there was one historical figure out there that you'd like to have a cup of coffee with instead of me,
Instead of you,
who would you choose?
I would say George Washington or somebody from the Revolutionary time. I find those people of history to be very intriguing, very interesting. People that even just regular citizens at the time, they kind of not walked away from their life, but they put everything on the line for a new future and a new start, and that's that means a lot to really take that big step instead of just saying, I don't want to be part of England. They put their money where their mouth was and did something.
Yeah.
So
When I'm a National Academy graduate, and when I went to the National Academy, we had a thing with the Civil War. And we actually went to a Civil War battle site, and a lot of it was leadership skills. And we had speakers that spoke about all and we actually went out there in different angles, and same thing, like you're like, wow, there's so much there, But that's another thing, Civil War, you should bring your kids to horseback tours in Gettysburg. Have you ever heard of those?
No, I haven't.
I did.
Okay.
Me and my dad talked about it for years and years and years. He passes away, we never did it. I said to my wife about a week later, I says, it was cold out at the time, it was April. I said, this summer we're doing it. So we went on the internet and we set it up, and you go to Gettysburg, and there's these companies that do these horseback tours. So everyone gets a horse, and you go out on the horse with the guide, and same thing, amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. If you're looking for history, it's just an amazing experience, and it's something you should think about. And your kids are probably a little young now, but in a few years,
to be able
that would be a really cool thing to do. And I think with the kids, they just think it's cool to be on a horse.
Exactly.
Me, I was taking in the whole
the
whole
lesson
thing.
side of it. Yeah.
But it's just Really cool stuff. So that's interesting, though. You're a Revolutionary War guy.
Yeah, the Civil War is very fascinating too, because I have here again history. Two ancestors that were Civil War veterans.
Okay.
One passed of wounds he
really?
he received. The other one, came home and lived out his life in Middletown. So
Yeah.
it's very again a very similar situation or topic like the Revolution, where they went and fought for something they so firmly believed in. Whether you were on the north or the south side, it was something that
it's amazing, right? I like history. That was always my favorite topic in high school. I always enjoyed. I didn't like the Mediterranean history and the early ages. Like I was more like U.S. history. I loved U.S. history. That was one of my favorite things. All right, so any hobbies? What are your hobbies? You got 4 kids. You're town supervisor, business owner. So I mean, how do you have time? But if you did,
I had for a few years played adult hockey, just to get back into it and enjoyed it.
Do you follow the NHL? Are you an NHL guy?
Yes, I do. Like I'm a Rangers fan. So if I'm at home and if it's not a West Coast game, I try to stay up and watch it. And some nights the recliner puts me to sleep. But
that's something I never knew. Do you know Steve Newhouse is a big hockey guy too? Did you know that?
I did not.
Yes,
so,
and in fact, the last time he was on, we talked about going to a game, but it hasn't worked out because of COVID and stuff. But yeah, he's a big hockey guy. That's the county executive for those who are just tuning in for the first time. But yeah, there's a whole group down in Chester and Steve's not in it now, but they had season tickets and they all bought Rangers season tickets. So a couple of years ago, the chief in Chester, Dan Dollinger, is part of that group, and he gave me some tickets.
Pretty neat.
And I brought my son, which is an awesome experience.
Yeah.
That's another great experience, bring your kids to a hockey game.
Yeah, we've been to, not all of us, probably to the, what'll come to me, the Prudential Center. Okay. And we watched the Rangers beat the Devils, so.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was born on Long Island, so I was always, and I had family on Long Island, so we were Islander fans, and I was actually when I was a little kid, part of that whole, I wasn't a part of it, but I was a fan of the Islanders dynasty.
Okay, yeah.
When they won all
in the
the
80s.
four, in the 80s, so everybody was like an Islander fan, where my family was down there, because, the Rangers just seemed so far away. But yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it. So, read or watch TV? What is your preference?
I watch TV. I do read more so magazines and kind of, if you would, like publications specific to work, private, public work, either one. But I do like to just sit down in the evening and watch a little TV and relax. And
that's what I like to do as well. Yeah. So now your 4 kids, what's the breakdown? Boys, girls?
3 girls, 1 boy.
Okay, and he's the youngest?
Second youngest.
Okay.
Yep.
And your wife is local as well? She went to Minnesink?
Yes. Okay. Yep. Slate Hill, where we on
name is?
Dawn.
Dawn. Okay.
Yep. Dawn.
I knew what it was, but I wanted you
Matt's wife.
Matt's
yes.
wife. Everyone always Matt's wife.
Yeah, it's Matt's wife. Yep.
And she obviously supports this as well.
Yes, that was the first nod of approval I needed. Okay. So without the home front support, it wouldn't happen, at least in my eyes.
Now, your dad's so active. Did you ever sit down with him and say, like, at the beginning and pick his brain on it?
Yes. My concern more so was for time management between both jobs, between both works. And he was and is very supportive. And, and we have formulated, scheduling to make it work all the way around. So, but...
If you don't have a family behind you, you can't make it work.
Correct.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
Or if you do it, it's a miserable existence, which means it's impossible.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's good. Is there anything else you wanted to throw out there that maybe we missed so far? That's it.
No, I don't think so. With the television, it goes back to the history. I like historical documentaries, so things that are, you learn from.
I like the home improvement shows too. Like I've always been like a This Old House fan.
Yep.
I always like all the cool little things. I've never done any of it. I know you just built a house.
Yes.
So that's like that would be a goal of mine, to be able to build a house and from scratch, right from the get-go. I just think that would be so fun to put into it.
Yes, and again, like that planning to completion stage, my wife drew what we wanted. You know,
So you have a custom house.
correct.
This
Yeah, we went to an architect and engineer, and they made it correct on paper, and we went from there. So
No, that's pretty
yeah,
cool too.
it's
That's fun.
and it's nice being in business to see new construction, to see renovations, to see all these different things, and to have the relationships with people where I can say, hey, Paula, I'm going to work in your house this week. Can I, instead of just doing the work in the basement, can I go upstairs and look at,
Right.
so you have that, I guess, ability and experience to take in a lot. So
One of the things cool about being a police officer, and it's similar to what you do, is that you're around so many houses. You get to see cool little things. Even if your house is built, like you see something, you're like, wow, that's a really cool garden that they have, or a cool this, or cool that, or I love their patio set, or, and you're in the same thing when you're out and about, and you come home and I say to my wife, just say, no, we're not spending money on that, or
we
whatever.
don't need
I'm like,
that.
no, it's really cool, and I'm like, I was there and I saw it, and and that's I guess the great part about being in government, being out with the people, is you get to see all the cool things that people have, not living or stuck working in an office building somewhere. So that's pretty cool stuff. All right. Well, so you were always in menacing schools, because Mammoth Keating would have been the same. Okay.
Correct.
So you went to the old Otisville School?
Yes, on School
So
Street.
you have a history of the Otisville School, then you went to the main campus, and then so that's interesting.
Yep.
So, well, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome.
I think this was good for me to learn, and I'm sure everybody watching learned a little bit too.
Very good.
So, hopefully we can have you on again, and if there's anything else we want to, we can think of, we'll bring it up.
Okay.
So.
Well,
All right, everybody.
sounds
Well,
good.
thanks for joining us for this month's edition of Coffee with the Chief, and we will see you in February.